aspect, isn't it? How many people are using it?
It's always awkward when you just sit here in silence until it starts working.
It's all right, man.
Nice peaceful time before we start shouting about this.
Yeah, before the rage kicks in.
Could you hit the camera button again just to make sure it comes up? Because I'm having to press mine like twice just to.
Yeah.
Cool. So the recording started. This is the NWC Show, episode 21. I've had some technical issues, as people will be used to me saying. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, it's GG at GG on Wrestling on Twitter. Listen to There's Something About Wrestling wherever you get your podcast from. I did already say it, but big congrats to yourself. I see all the hard work you're putting in, loads of great content. So big ups to you, man, and honour to be the first return guest, mate. Real pleasure.
Right, man, it nearly make me blush for the second time. No, man, it's cool. Obviously, this is the kind of first person we've had back on the show, so it's going to be more relaxed, talk about wrestling in a kind of more fun way, instead of from like getting to know you. We can literally just start shouting about wrestling if we want. But first thing I want to bring up is I brought it up in my live stream, and I want to get your thoughts on this. The polar difference between wrestling is 20 years ago, well, 21 years ago, 22, 1999, however long ago that was. Saturday, the March 20th was WCW Live, and it had like an insane card. Like it main evented by Flair and Hogan, which you could say was okay, but in 99 they were a little bit over themselves. Before that was Sting, Bret Hart, you had Goldberg, Meng, Conan, Bob Duncan, Benoit, Malenko, Windman, Kurt Hennig, Mysterio, Kidman, Guerrera, Chris Adams, Barry Darso. But imagine going to a live show, just turning up to a live show and seeing like Flair, Sting, Bret Hart. What's your thoughts on that?
Massive names. It's crazy, isn't it, to think. So what was that? Was that an event, or was that just a
WCW live event, like a house show?
Bloody hell! Imagine that, Hogan and Flair. But even they did it on Nitro though. I was on the Monday Night Chores podcast recently. The episode should be coming out soon, and make sure you're supporting those guys because they're making great content. So I had to watch Raw and Nitro from '96, the 1st of Jan episodes. And it is insane, the stuff that WCW were throwing out there. And even, funnily enough, the main event to that Nitro was Flair Hogan for the world title. You had Arn Anderson, Macho Man, Lex Luger and Sting was on there. Do you know, they had some big names, and they were throwing away just any matches on Nitro. It's crazy.
Well, I'm doing something similar. So I'm doing like I decided, I know I used to do watch-alongs, but it's coming to that point when it's like the 2 hours plus, which I just can't sit for 2 hours like on a camera. Yeah. So what I'm doing is just reviewing it, and I was reviewing WCW, and I was like, which is January 1st, 1996, and I was like, but Raw's right there, so I'll just put them both together. And the names that WCW had, it was like, why was anybody even watching WWF at that time? Like, it's insane.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And this is obviously at a time where, you know, the new generation was starting to come in and things like that. And yeah, they had all the nostalgia acts on WCW, and they were just, like you said, giving away Hogan and Flair on TV. Crazy.
It was a good time for wrestling fans to go back and watch, because you just got like a Nitro, and you've got like Benoit versus Guerrero and Malenko, and you're like, why are you doing this on like a Monday night? Like, you don't need to get this amped. It's such a good match. But
even just to go back and see those names, like your Eddie Guerreros and you had Eddie Guerrero versus Ric Flair on Nitro these times. And, the particular episode I watched from 1st of Jan 96 had Benoit versus William Regal. these are matches now you'd think about and you'd be like, oh, I'd love to see that, wouldn't you? And just, it's crazy.
So, first kind of question, obviously, we've kind of discussed what we're going to kind of go into, but SmackDown was last night. This podcast will be going up tonight. So, what did you think about SmackDown?
First, I'm not very happy that you've made me watch SmackDown. I just really struggle to watch the weekly shows. There's just, and I like to think it's not through any kind of AEW bias, but just some of the stuff they do, I just find so questionable. So I honestly don't think they even know what they really want to do with the whole Edge, Bryan, Roman stuff. That just doesn't seem like they even have a clear picture. I mean, they've already changed the Fastlane main event from a tag match to Daniel Bryan versus Roman. So that immediately tells me was that part of the plan? Were they always going to change it? Um, I'm not. I think we discussed it last time. I'm not the biggest fan of Edge winning the Rumble. And especially now you're inserting Bryan into this whole picture, it just baffles me. If you're gonna keep pushing Bryan into the title picture, and if it ends up being a triple threat at Mania, I will pull my hair out because you should have just given it to Daniel Bryan. You could have slotted Edge in there somehow. He's a big enough name, and I just don't know where they're going with any of it. So much of it is just so baffling. The Sasha Banks Bianca Belair stuff is, I don't really get what they're trying to do there. They just love just having these these champion challengers thrown into the tag title picture, whether it's the men or now the women, which it just doesn't need. Sasha Banks and Bianca are big enough stars in their own right. They could have built to this so much better. And yeah, I mean, what was your thought? What's your thoughts on the whole Roman Edge Bryan situation at the moment?
Man, I struggled to get my review out this morning. I watched it and I was like, oh, this is so shit. Apart from the ending, I enjoyed Jey Uso versus Edge. I enjoyed the kind of. I don't enjoy the story. I don't really get what they're doing, but it's like it kind of works. Why didn't we just go full on Roman versus Edge or full on Bryan versus Roman? I think it's going
Pick
to
a
be.
side, isn't it? Just pick one, and now you're building to this big. I mean, it is a big match, a big title match between Daniel Bryan and Roman, and we're doing it at Fastlane right before Mania, and it just kind of just muddies the waters and the what's going on for Mania. Saying what you said about the ending and stuff, I wouldn't have even been mad if we just week after week we just had Edge Spear Roman, Roman Spear Edge, Edge Spear Roman, Roman Spear Edge. You can build it just to them two just catching each other with the spear every so often. I just it's just baffling, really is.
Something that I would have done, obviously, given COVID wasn't here, is you'd have Edge out with his family at a shopping or something. Roman spears him. Then Roman's out doing something like walking his dog. Edge spears him. You just keep that going for a
Yeah,
week. But you don't need a Rumble. Edge did not need to win that Rumble.
no,
Give it to Bryan and let Bryan go in and go get bet by Roman. Let Roman go over. He's doing the work, whatever. Then if you want to put Edge in, Edge is literally a big name. There's no need to let's
exactly.
give this huge name a Rumble. Why was the point?
And I know I said it. I think I did say it on the last episode we did. I mean, Edge has already won a Rumble as well. Now was your chance to finally give Daniel Bryan that big Rumble win, which he deserved a few years ago. You didn't do it. And Daniel Bryan, I don't think he's going to be there for much longer. So why not just give him that moment? And now you're just putting him in the title picture anyway. It's just so confusing and baffling. And
and if they make
sorry, I
if they
don't.
make a dance, I think it's just going to be like Edge and Roman will be good, Roman and Bryan will be good, but the three of them together, I don't see Edge and Daniel Bryan putting on a good match, or maybe, but I don't really see it.
I mean, there's been a lot of good triple threat matches at Mania. So it's possible they could pull it off, but it just boggles my mind why you're now just inserting Daniel Bryan randomly into this whole story. Like you could have just done. I'm not a big fan of doing it, but you could have done a tag match at Fastlane. Where's Jimmy Uso? Or there's options there, but now you're just muddying the waters, and now people are going, right, Daniel Bryan should probably be in the title picture. And you're pushing him too much now, because now there are going to be fans out there that, like myself, that are going, well, I would personally rather see Daniel Bryan versus Roman than Edge versus Roman. And I honestly, people are going to probably slander me for this, but I just don't see that anyone is close to Roman at the moment on that side. I just personally don't think there's anyone, maybe in ring wise, certainly, but character wise and just the status that Roman's built for himself, I don't feel even Edge is that much of a close competitor to Roman at the moment in terms of hype or things like that. Just Roman's character has been so good, and now I think the problem is they were just banking on this Rock match to eventually happen, weren't they? And it's it's all been thrown out the window, and now they're just trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what to do. And I don't know.
For me, booking it wise, I would say send Daniel Bryan, could have had him have the match at Fastlane, the one that they're having. Daniel Bryan loses, which if he wins is going to even be more of a headache. But he loses and loser leaves SmackDown. He has to go to Raw. He goes to Raw and then he wins a number one contender match, just like he goes, I want to do this, and goes against Bobby Lashley. They two could put on a great match.
Daniel
and
Bryan against the Hurt Business would be a great program. That would be great.
Then you could bring the titles together and make one big storyline into SummerSlam, retirement match. If Bryan wants to leave, let him go. But that's thinking too far in the future, man. That's people just
and they don't look that far into the future, unfortunately. So you're giving them a bit more credit than Yeah, I don't know, man. They've just got no idea. And yeah, I mean, literally, I think I tweeted it yesterday. The only thing I'm now excited for Mania is Cesaro versus Seth Rollins' potential match. That is the only match that I am going to be excited to tune in for at the moment. And that's sad.
The thing I hate about this Cesaro Rollins, Cesaro Nakamura stuff, it's like, where has it came from?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Just we need him on the card for this Sunday. Like, what's the point? Like, it's going to be a good match.
Yeah,
I'm not invested in it at all.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not invested in the build at all. Seth Rollins looks great, but whatever he's talking about is just, there's not real substance to it. I mean, his gripe on SmackDown was everyone walked off, Cesaro stayed and made it worse and embarrassed me. He's just jealous. These are all just, do you know what I mean? There's just surface kind of feuds, and it's just like, oh, he's jealous. It's just too easy. It'll be a brilliant match, and it's the only match I'm excited for Mania if it happens. But yeah, the build's been terrible.
And I think the build for after the Rumble, I feel it just went. It wasn't that good right before that, but I feel it's went downhill even more.
No, it has. You're right.
Fell off completely. I think, everybody have went, okay, the pandemic's going to be like a month at most, and then it's obviously been on for a year. But they're like, we have no other plans what we're going to be doing here. We don't know what we're going to write. We don't know how we're going to do it. There's no really any body that can go against Roman. Lashley as well winning the belt. As much as I like Lashley winning the belt, like I said the last time when we were on this podcast, no, really, he has the look. He looks like a champion. He moves like a champion. Doesn't really need the belt. He's already was. I would have probably gave it to somebody. Who's he going to drop it to? They've already.
True.
They're selling a corner with Roman. You can't have Bobby Lashley go against Roman Reigns and just let them compete. Drew McIntyre doesn't look as good against Bobby Lashley on paper.
That's the problem. I think it's really tarnished Drew McIntyre's push and the hype that was around him. And I think to the point now where, and I wasn't sold on Lashley at all. I don't think he's got much of a character. Once I see him with the belt and the presentation, I was a bit more sold, and I was like, do you know what? He looks the bloody part. But now you're backing yourself into a corner now where, I mean, we're all kind of under the impression that the plan is to have Drew win that belt in front of the crowd and give him the moment he didn't have last year. But I think it's gone on too long now, and I think there is going to be some pushback and some resentment now when Drew does win that belt back from Lashley. I don't think people are going to be as happy with it as WWE have anticipated. And I think there is going to be some resentment because, they finally just put this belt on Lashley. Lesnar's not turning up, let's be honest. So I think this is one of the WrestleManias I'm like least excited for. Like I'm really struggling to find anything that I am really excited for, to the point where the most exciting thing for me is a potential Cesaro Rollins match, which has been built terribly.
And we need to talk about the failure of what they've done with Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Like that could literally be
Main event
big
night one.
on
That's what it
main.
should be.
See if they like. Obviously, I would probably say this is going to sound very sexist, but it's no. What I'm going to say is the world belt should be like the world championship should be in the main event, and it's still like they still don't make the women's belt seem like a world championship. Why not
No, they
just
don't.
like make it mean something? Like Bobby Lashley, Roman Reigns, we're talking about that. I don't really care who the women's champion is. I know who it is, but I would love if it really, really meant something. Like I feel Charlotte Flair brought something back to it a little bit. Sasha Banks does it as well, but it's no like you don't really care. Like you know what I mean?
No, you don't. You don't.
Sounds terrible to say.
No, but it is true, and that's not anything against us. That's because they've not made us care. You know, by what they really dilute the whole title picture by just throwing. I mean, how many times have they had the challenger and the champ thrown into the tag title picture with the women? And that just discredits all of it, because you could have these two separate builds and really build the women's tag, really build these women's titles, but because whether it's through lack of time or you don't feel that people are going to be that invested in the first place, where that's up to you as the creators of this story to make them invested. But for whatever reason, you're just diluting everything by just throwing them all together and recycling the same storyline that you've done for since Dude Love and Stone Cold won the tag titles, or Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold won the tag titles, or Undertaker and Stone Cold, or you can go back so far, and this story has been recycled. It would be probably very interesting to do a video on that. I might actually have a look at all the times they've used this story and do something, because there's probably so many in it. And I don't think you should feel bad for saying that you're not excited by it, because they've not made us invested or excited. There's no big names. Asuka's just, I mean, she had a bit of a run out last week, but yeah, there's just nothing going on.
And as well, again, what we're talking about, you're talking about Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold, Undertaker, like most of them all doing it with Austin, winning the tag belts and then going on to, but it's like, in a weird way, it worked with them. Like the one with Austin and Shawn Michaels they done such fun stuff. I remember watching that. I think I was like 14 when I went back and watched it, and it felt so fun doing it. But then like they don't even do it's like, oh, we'll win the tag belts and we'll be competitive with each other. And then like they're never competitive. Like they've got Reginald, that's the most competitive person in the women's division at the minute, which blows my mind. Like the social justice culture just now, not anything like that, but you like to talk about women, and then you've literally just got like you're about
No, you're
that man
right.
in there to make the women look good. That's all you need.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't know if it's I think Charlotte adds a lot to the title picture. I think she is a top class competitor, and I know that people really are sour on her for constantly getting a push, but I think she is a champ, and I think she adds a lot of prestige and stuff to the title, and she's a great worker, and she's good on the
Like
mic.
she is the only one that kind of looks like a champion at the minute. Like she has that like the flair look. You know what I mean? Like obviously she
Yeah,
has a flair, but she has that look. And then the other thing that they've just killed at the minute is Rhea Ripley. She announced 2-3 weeks ago she was coming to Raw, and then we're still waiting. I'm a big mark for Rhea Ripley. She's like my favourite wrestler at the minute, and I'm like, just put her in gear the belt at Mania. That's what you should have done last year. Do it this year.
yeah, and now we're a day away from Fastlane. We're not far from Mania at all, and still, I don't even think they've got an idea what they're doing. And at least with AEW, I know sometimes people are saying it's quite predictable, but at least, you can kind of envision what's going to happen because they know what's going to happen. They've got an idea and you can kind of see where these stories are going to go. But with WWE, it's not unpredictable where it's like, oh, what's going to happen? It's what the hell is going to happen? What are they going to do? Because they don't even know. And it's such a shame, especially with the women's division. I think they've really struggled recently to build anything around them. And Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair should have main evented one of these nights at Mania. And unfortunately, people are just not invested enough. And they're both great. And it's nothing against them because they should be, main event in Mania. But there's just not enough build.
And while we're still on the topic about, well, we'll move to AEW. The death match, your thoughts on it?
I literally had to sit quietly for a few minutes after it finished because I was so overwhelmed. I heard some ramblings that it was going to be good, and people wanted them to push the envelope a little bit more with this stipulation, and boy did they. It was insane. Like, Britt Baker is a bloody star. Sorry about the pun. But yeah, she's just like amazing. That power bomb into the thumbtacks is possibly one of the worst thumbtack spots I've personally seen. It looked like she picked them all up with her back. It was crazy, and you could see she was actually in pain. Like, her body was like shaking. And these two, just so much credit to them for really just pushing the envelope, really going out there. And I mean, Britt Baker is a star in her own right, not to take anything away from her, but Thunder Rosa deserves so much credit for, as soon as she came in, we really started to talk about the women's division in AEW, and that's what everyone wanted. And everyone can just shut their mouths now because you can't discredit their women's division now. Not after that. I dare anyone to watch that match and then say, oh yeah, they can't book the women's division. I mean, let's not get it twisted. There wasn't a great build to it. The story there wasn't a lot of meat and bones to the story itself, but it did build in a way where this had to be the outcome, and it was brilliant. I'll admit it. I'm not ashamed to admit it. You did you watch it? Yeah, you saw it.
Yeah.
The last bit where Thunder Rosa throws Britt through the table and she's in her face, wiping blood off her face and hair and screaming, you could see that they're both so proud. And I actually got a little bit choked up watching it. Like, I had to catch myself. I was like, oh, because it was actually a really moving moment because it was such a big moment for AEW to have the women put on that main event in that fashion, to that degree. And they put it all out there, and you could see it in both of them, and I thought it was just a lovely moment. I mean, it might slightly breaking character, it almost seemed like, but it was brilliant. It was just organic.
Man, I'm been a big critic for AEW. You know this as well. Like, I'm not the biggest AEW fan because I like all wrestling. I take it on the same level as everything. There's some problems with AEW. They're still young. I get it. Still time to grow. But that match, I told you last time, their women's division's like non-existent. But when that came in, I was like, great. They've got like the women there. They just need to put them into play. That just showed that the women know exactly what to do and let them kind of go do it. Again, when I first seen that, I was like, that's who won my kind of match of the week. I was like, this is insane. These women put on a great wrestling match. And again, it was just a wrestling match. Like, the way you could imagine, 20 years ago, you put that in, 20 years ago, it would have held up. Speaking about, obviously, the AEW with bloods and stuff like that, what do you think about the explosion at the end of the Omega, I've totally forgot his name, Moxley's, the explosion?
I did talk about this on the Rest Things podcast. I'm actually really, I feel bad for them. I get, that it doesn't look great to outsiders, and it just fuels the fire for these AW haters and stuff. And I get it. They're a big company. They've got the backing. They've got the money. But these things can happen. They did test it on the day. They can only hope that it's going to work. And I honestly I just think it's a massive shame. I'm not going to be like, oh, for God's sake, angry at them. I actually feel for them because the actual match was brilliant. The whole layout of the match and what they did, teasing the barbed wire spots, and I thought the actual match itself was brilliant, and what they were actually trying to achieve with bringing Eddie Kingston out to be the only one to save Moxley, it was a beautiful story and so thoughtful and well thought out, and I commend them for that. So I just thought it was just such a shame. I was upset for them rather than annoyed that this had happened and ruined the main event. I even tweeted, I said, just refilm it and I'll forget it ever happened, because I would love to be able to go back and watch that match as it was intended with the right ending, and I honestly just really, my heart goes out to him because it would have been such a brilliant ending to quite a stellar pay-per-view. And I think it's just a huge shame, and I feel for them.
Well, I'm the same. Obviously, we make reviews. I seen your tweet. I was kind of like, it's a little bit disappointing because I was up all night, so I stayed up even extra. So I normally get up 3 a.m., but I didn't go to sleep for like 40 odd hours, and I was like staying up watching it. It got to the end, and I was poor. But what people forget is, if you go back and watch, there's a DVD called The Original Japanese Deathmatch Tournament, which is the one with Cactus Jack and Terry Funk at the kind of the final. The ring goes to explode, and you get like just a glimpse of the explosion because the camera cuts away, and it's exactly like that. It's just a couple of like sparklers at the side.
Mm.
It looks terrible. It cuts away. Then when they go back to it, then they finish the death match because it was like at a timer and it would go off. But people forget, like, it's not like FMW who blew up the ring and stuff like that. It was pretty shit looking. Like, I
It
went back
was.
and
It
watched it
was.
this week, and I was like, it's terrible. The only thing I don't like is the barbed wire ropes, the way they done it. I could have been a little bit better. They could have made it look more cool towards like ECW, TNA, even done it a little bit better.
Oh, I just
But
think they're a bit too sparing with the barbed wire around the ropes and stuff. Is that what you mean?
I would have just replaced the ropes with the barbed wire and done some cooler stuff with that because it looks better, like they done in the original one. But the spots that they done, or if you go watch Terry Funk Cactus Jack Deathmatch, I'll send you the link. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Is it looks exactly the same. Some spots that they done, the kind of the sparkle a bit is the exact same, and it's so weird that like people forget. Like obviously in the 90s it was DVDs, so people just turned away, or VHS back then. But I was boggling my mind. I'm like, it's not that bad. Like they've literally had worse death matches than this. But I think it could have been a little bit better. But like you said, the match itself was actually really, really good. I don't see there's no flaw in the match. Just that ending was so embarrassing, and I was like, oh, it's one of them. Like that would be the match that you'd be like, guys, you need to come round my house, and you need to watch this. COVID, nobody's coming round anybody's houses, but you need to watch this.
Yeah.
And they tune in and you're like, oh shit, why'd they get you tune into this?
No, I mean, I watched it with one of my mates, and he has never obviously seen that style of match before. And someone's first experience, you're hoping that it's going to deliver. And up until that point, he was even like, oh my god, like the explosions and stuff. They were done really well, and the way they were paced and thought out was brilliant. But yeah, I mean, my immediate reaction was, is that it? Like, I was disappointed immediately, but then it just turned to just feeling for them, and just because of the match itself was so good, and Eddie Kingston, I take my hat off to them to even think, right, there's no one to save Moxley, and it's Eddie Kingston of all people. And I just thought it would have been such a beautiful moment, and it was until it happened. And the problem is the whole match was building to that point as well, and it was done well to build to that point. And then when that thing doesn't deliver, it's difficult. But I don't judge them for it necessarily. I just feel for them.
And like I said, I don't think a lot of people even remember like that deathmatch tournament. Keep calling it tournament, which is called the original one. I don't think a lot of people remember it because it literally the way it went off at the end is what that was. It's if
Really.
somebody sent the person the DVD and was like, "Do this," they've done that, and then they were like, "Oh shit, this doesn't look as cool as what it should." But it just looks as like they cut away from it straight away in the original one, so like they don't even show it. It's like 2 seconds. It's there for. It's just like the exact same. There's nothing different, and it poor boggles my mind how people were so hard on the kind of the pay-per-view and stuff like that. And obviously, I say people are hard on AEW, and I'm probably one of the person that sits and kind of goes, "Oh, this could have been better. It could have done this." But I want them to be good, so I like to critique them. Like that's
At the end of the day,
what
I
I like
think
to do. It.
yeah, I think we said it last time. You do it to your, if one of my favorite artists brought out an album, I would critique it and say, well, I didn't really like this song, or why did you have this feature, or I didn't really like the beat on this song, or it's there to be picked apart. The what I don't like is when people just outright are just nasty about it. Like, there's just no need. Like I'm not really happy with WWE, but I'm a big fan. Like, I grew up. That's how I grew up. It's still precious to me, and more times I'm just watching it just disappointed. But I'm not going to be like some of the things you see. People have just real hatred for it, and it's like, calm down. You're not really understanding what they're trying to achieve here.
I don't understand why people can hate it as well. Like even back with TNA, like I used to love TNA. I don't understand why people would hate it. I would rather just have. It would have been cool if WCW, WWE, ECW all could have survived and then just like keep building. That would have
Mm.
been cool. Fortunately, it didn't. I want another no as bad, no as bad as late 2000 WCW, but I want another WCW to kind of come along, like an AEW or the way TNA was, like 2008, 9-ish, when it
Mm.
was getting a lot of eyes before they ruined it. But I don't get why people are just so like wrestling sometimes on Twitter. You're like, why have you got a channel or why are you watching wrestling? If every single thing I see from you, you're just like slating the show. I'll say it's boring, but then I'll try and pick a positive part, which I've been watching wrestling for years, and it's quite hard to pick positives in the past couple of weeks from any wrestling, including AEW. The women's match for me was the best part of it. Also, the inner circle breaking up. What's your thoughts on that? For me, I want MJF to call his group the outer circle, just so it would be so much more fun and just parody everything Jericho does. That would make my day.
I mean, we've seen this coming for a while. I think everyone's had their kind of fantasy booking with this, four horsemen stable. I wasn't. I did kind of like the swerve. It's like a double swerve, wasn't it? Oh no, Jericho, we're all going to get you, and then no, we're going to get MJF, and then MJF was like, oh, I was ready all along. So it was kind of clever how they did that. It was, you kind of had to keep guessing what was going to happen, but I mean, I've always said it would have been MJF, FTR, Spears. I'm really not sold on Sean Spears at the moment. The blonde mohawk, I don't get at all. And I think if he's the chairman, I think he needs to just always have a chair with him 24/7. Whether or not he's just sitting on the corner in a chair while these lot are just talking or whatever it is, I just I still see him as the weaker link at the moment. I hope it changes, and I hope he kind of solidifies himself as one of these top members in this stable. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. MJF's brilliant. He's going to be the Ric Flair of the four horsemen. Wardlow is just brilliant and still so not green, not even green, but inexperienced in terms of longevity in wrestling. I'm a big fan of it. It's just Sean Spears he needs to do some work to get himself over for me.
Man, I forgot Spears was even in AEW till he came out. I don't know. I don't really like him that much. Not that I don't like him. I've never really bought into his character, like you said.
No,
Like
yeah.
he's got like a gimmick, but then doesn't ever do anything with a gimmick. It's like, what are you doing? Just play to the gimmick. But there was something else I was going to say and I totally forgot. Sting. What do you think about? So Sting's my favourite wrestler of all time, just because when I was a kid, that moment, TV on, me just pointing, that's the guy I want to watch wrestling with. What do you think about him and Darby Allin? What do you think about it?
I totally get the criticism in terms of the depth of putting these two together. There's not really been a big understanding of how this came about. I'd like to see maybe a origin story, maybe in the Darby Allin style of how he films, to see how these two came together. I think at the end of the day, it's still a business. Like, you're a big Sting fan. If you wasn't watching AEW at all, you're going to tune in. If you're not watching it at all, oh, Sting's over there. I used to watch Sting all the time. I'm watching, and then you see Darby Allin, and then that intrigue then pushes over to Darby, and the focus is on him. And Sting's not come out and been all about me, all about me. Yes, there's been segments every damn week. We're going to interview Sting. We're going to interview Sting, and I think I mentioned this again last time, but I think the problem was that they're promoting this every week. Whereas if it was just a segment that happened, you wouldn't necessarily feel any type of way about it. Especially this week, you had obviously him interviewing, or Tony interviewing Sting and Darby, and the focus was on Darby. He called out the Dark Order, and then you had Lance Archer and Jake come out. Then you had Team Taz, and I just love how alive everything feels in AEW. There's so many moving parts, and they don't forget about things that have happened if people cross over again. And I just think they're so good at just creating this alive universe, to for want of a better word. And I just think the busyness of it just creates that atmosphere. Oh yeah, he's still here and he wants this shot, and it makes we're all after the title, and that's how it should be. Everyone should want those championships, and that's what I think WWE struggle with. There's too much emphasis on story in terms of why I want to fight you because you're the champ, not I want the belt. Like, we should all want the title. It should be what we're all working towards, and I think AEW get that across in a much better way. I don't understand the hate for it. He's not Goldberg. He's not coming in and nearly breaking Undertaker's neck because he can't work safely because he's already bashed his own head into the ring post. He's not coming in winning the belt after they've built up the Fiend for however many months, and Goldberg's just stealing the belt within 5 minutes for a big Saudi paycheck. I don't understand the comparisons. It literally baffles me. It's like there's just no understanding of what is going on. Sting is not there to steal the limelight. He is there to get eyes on the product and then push that limelight onto the younger stars, and they're doing it so brilliantly. If you're just, I don't know, man. I don't get it.
No, man, I wasn't a big fan of Sting being in AEW. I've told you before. I don't know. I just was like the talking stuff. It was just every week they're like, Sting is going to speak, and it's like, all right, we get it. And then there was some wee things like we're just, I don't know, it's quite cheesy. I didn't really like it. But after the match he had, and then even though the cinematic style, I thought it was pretty cool. It wasn't the best, but it was pretty cool. But what I want to do is them to buy the rights. Tony Khan's got the money. Buy the rights to the 7-Up advert where Sting hits the kid around the living room. I don't know if you remember this.
No, I don't.
You need to YouTube it, man. I'll send you the link again for that one because it's funny. And he comes in, I think it's 7-Up or Sprite, hits the kid around, and I'm like, just say that was Darby Allin when he was younger. Just that would be, and then Darby Allin hits Sting. There you go. Have a little match between them or something. I think that would be cool. Do a cinematic match or something. Do it in a house. Who cares? I think that would just be cool.
What did you think of that cinematic match, and where would it rank for you in terms of others?
I don't like the cinematic style. The first one, AJ Undertaker's obviously has to be in that main kind of spot, just because Taker being Taker, and AJ can put on a good match with himself. I mean, he could literally go out and wrestle a towel, and we'd probably give him we'll steal the show.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe third, fourth. It was good, but I feel like, well, no, probably second, underneath the Undertaker one, because Sting was in it for me. Darby had a couple of things when he messed up. You can tell the bit when he went through the panel. The panel wasn't meant to slide down, smacked him in the back of the head.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, they were hurting right in the back of the head, and you're like, you just know it'd be one of them, you've took the panel shot, and you're like, oh, this is okay. Then that hits you in the head, and you're like, oh shit, my head's sore now. But I think it'd be cool. It was cool. It was cinematic matches. What can you do with them? I hope that's not what people think we want to see forever. The pandemic was don't show us anymore. Keep them in the pandemic kind of thing.
And Darby kind of, that's a lot of his brainchild, all of that stuff. I think he's got such a great mind for these vignettes and these things like that. And just to add to the point about Sting as well, I'm riled up about the Sting hate or just the comparisons. Elevating Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks is brilliant, and you sent him out, who's a very young talent, and the other week you sent him out by himself, standing 1-to-1 with Sting. Just think about that. Like it's the the great look that gives Ricky Starks, and he slapped him in the face. And where's who's Goldberg putting over? Where's that for Gold? Where have we seen that? He's ruined Kevin Owens' push. He ruined the Fiend's push. I don't understand how you can compare the two. It is just baffling.
And I don't, when I see that stuff, I just scroll by it because Sting to me is like, he got me into TNA when I seen he was there. Then I went back and watched like the Kevin Nash stuff and stuff that was there. But Sting really got me into TNA. And AEW, I was doing it for the show, like for my channel. But Sting got me paying more attention to it a little bit more, not just casually watching it. Like I started to keep up with it a little bit better. Like I says, I'm not a big AEW fan. I'm a wrestling fan, but there is some things that kind of annoy me on it. They don't need to make like decisions that they make, but you need to let stuff go. Like you can't, I can't be like, oh, WWE's got Reginald who could possibly win the women's championship. I can't be like, oh, that's okay, but
Yeah,
AEW shouldn't have Sting, one of the biggest legends in the business. So
yeah, the two just do not. There's just no comparison, is there?
oh man, it hurts me when I do see people like beating down AEW. It's like, why not just say I didn't like this and
Yeah,
critique them on it? Like I do. I hope somebody there sees my video and goes, "Oh, but that guy's got a pretty good idea. I'll try and change something." Like if you think Darby Allin kind of sliding down on the thing, you know they had to make that on the zip line. Is that what they're called?
yeah.
You had to make that safe because of obviously the Owen Hart's kind of thing. And the only problem with that is when he did come in and he's standing there and he's like, he hit somebody, and then you
Yeah,
can
it
see
didn't
them.
look great.
Yeah, it's like just don't do that wee bit. Just have them go do something else. Like, don't do that because of Owen Hart. That should be a reason you shouldn't be doing that. But
Yeah,
then people will be like, AEW's the worst show ever because of this, and it's like, but they're trying new things, trying to see what works. Like the stuff with Shaq. I don't really like that. I didn't. It was cool. I'm going through the table bump. Jade Cargill, don't really like. Don't like nothing. I'm going to buy into. But maybe in a couple of years, but like not right now. But I'm like, But then it's like at least they're trying stuff. At least they're trying to get new people out there looking good, looking different, instead of from just the same WWE person.
but that's it, isn't it? It's like you said, it's healthy to pick these things apart, and I'm all for people just, you know, I personally didn't like this. I would have preferred if this happened. But when it's just outright slander, just for no reason, and there's no substance to it, and you're gonna just attack others for having a different point of view, that's not cool. That's not. Do you know what I mean? Just grow up. That's just childish. We're adults. If we want to pick something apart, then that's what it is. You know, like yourself. I'm not going to sit here and go, "Oh, you're an idiot. You don't like Jade Cargill." That's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. I personally think she's been presented really well, and I think she looks like $1 million, and I think the way that she's played to the crowd and stuff is it's very natural, and for that to be her first match and for her to have the confidence to play off the crowd says a lot about her. Personally, I'm really invested in her. But and at the same time, you're not going to attack me for going, oh, how can you like her? You're an idiot. But this is what the kind of people that we have to deal with daily, that are just morons, that can't have a healthy, oh no, I get your point of view, but I personally think this. But there's just so many idiots out there that are just quick to just jump on people and take the absolute mick out of them just for having a different point of view. It's just sad and childish.
Yeah, man. But you can tell somebody your favourite colour is green, and they'll tell you no, your favourite colour should be blue. Like it doesn't matter. Jade Cargill, I agree with you. She's been presented good. She's got like the look. She's got everything there. She just needs that little bit more time, like the in-ring stuff.
Oh,
That's the
definitely.
only thing that's putting me off her, is just because they presented her so good. Like they presented her as like the female Brock Lesnar, like the old school one, no, the
The next big
chest
thing.
tattoo one, the good one. They presented them like, and I was like, this one was going to be great, and then it was like, like, she's no there yet. But give her time, let her grow. And the only reason I think she's no there yet is because COVID. She's not had time to train. They've not had house shows. They've not had like stuff when you can like set her up. So you kind of need to like let some bits slide because of COVID. But no, man, I totally don't understand why people just hate it. Like I know people that just love WWE but don't want to watch AEW or anything, and the opposite as well. It's like, well, that's what you like. Like I don't. I'm not going to try and force you to watch something you don't want to watch. I don't really care what you want to watch. I like wrestling. You don't like it. I don't care. But
See, I don't even try and I don't even try and comment on WWE too much because I'm not watching it a lot. So, the stuff I do mention on Twitter, maybe, it's not. I can't really just comment on every single thing because I'm not actively watching it as much. But AEW, I can have more of a point of view on because I'm sitting there watching it. But and at the end of the day, we've grown up watching WWE. I've watched WWE for probably longer than a lot of people that talk nonsense on Twitter. So shut your mouths, basically.
Man, the other day, there was this guy that was asking to be on the podcast, and he's like, I've been watching wrestling for about 10 years, and I was like, oh, like 10 years ago, and I was asking his age, and he was like, oh, I'm 60. So everybody has to be over 18 to be on the podcast, just because I swear a lot. But I was like, so he was like 16. And I was like, I've literally been watching wrestling longer than you've been alive. That I feel so old. I took myself away and just sat in a room and cried that I was that old now, which
I
is
get it.
just horrible. But no, man, I hope people just kind of like that negativity to take down with them every day. Like I'm going to go on Twitter and just like hate people for watching. Like you like Jade Cargill, that would be like me just going, no, what, I'm ending this podcast. We're not talking anymore.
Yeah,
It's not going up.
exactly.
But I'm not going to. You have your own opinion. You'll like stuff that I don't like. Then we'll like the same stuff. Everybody's just trying to make wrestling better because it is on a decline. Well, it's been on a decline since like 2015, and people need to try and reinvent stuff. And the only thing is, I keep saying is, stop looking to the past. Try and do new stuff. But then if you look at Christian and Big Show coming into WWE, AEW, you've got Edge, the attitude styles that we grew up with. So when you kind of think about Attitude Era, they not hated, but it was always like, oh, you don't want to watch like Hogan, Savage, and that kind of stuff because they're old now. Nobody from now says you don't want to watch Christian, Big Show, Edge, like CM Punk, Daniel Bryan because they're old.
I do.
Yeah, but
Well, maybe not Daniel Bryan, but
it's no like push that way. Literally, WWE would be like, don't watch these old guys, but it's no push that way.
they
So
did
it's
it
no, there's
themselves,
no
didn't
age
they?
for the wrestling fan.
They did it themselves, didn't they? They had, Nacho Man and the Huckster, they did it themselves. And now you're still bringing these nostalgia acts back, your Edge and, your Goldbergs and whoever. And that again, how can you be so short-sighted to think you were doing this, you were taking the piss out of WCW for this, however many years ago, and you're doing it yourself.
And I just think the problem is that people haven't let the Attitude Era pass. Nothing's came like all the ruthless aggression era. They've not let it pass. Like everybody's got the 80s wrestling. When I was younger, I wouldn't go watch it because it looked like terrible. Like the camera was terrible and stuff like that. I love going and watching it now, but back when I was younger, I was like, no. I was more of a ECW guy. If I was to go watch like old stuff, it would be like, oh no, ECW is the way it should be because I was like a teenager, something different. But you don't want to go sit and watch. Like people will still go watch Attitude Era, and the problem is nobody's let that era move, or the ruthless aggression hasn't died yet. There's people still talking about CM Punk's pipe bomb, and it's like, just let it go. Like it's done. Let's build something for the future. People are forgetting. Like WrestleMania is a prime example, since that's the next topic I've got wrote here. Is they're going, let's bring Hogan back, and it's like Hogan was there at the very first one. Hogan's done a lot for wrestling, no matter what anybody says about him. He is pretty much, for the casual fan, Hulk Hogan is wrestling right up till a point. Then it goes to like Rock. As much as I don't really like him, I like Austin better and stuff like that. But Austin was probably like a year, 2 years. Then it was Rock. Then it was Cena. As much as you don't like Hogan and stuff like that, he is wrestling. Like that period, he was just the guy. Why is he back? Like, And why is Titus O'Neil? I was like, what?
Well, Titus has done a lot of charity work in the Tampa area, so he's quite um, respected and known in the area. So I think that's why. I think he is kind of Vince's charity boy, not boy, but man, charity man. Um, so I think that's why he gets that push and that rub. Then obviously you're putting him next to Hulk Hogan, and I don't want to get too political, but it just does not look good with the climate of the world at the moment and what's been going on with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that. It just feels like you're really trying to go, Hogan's got a black friend, he can't be racist. That's what it looks like to me. And I don't want to get too political, but I just don't like the look of it. And I think, like you said, you don't need it. Hogan, you don't need to bring him back. I don't really feel personally that it's going to get any more eyes on the product now than, because, to me and yourself, we grew up watching wrestling. We're all, we would have been Hulkamaniacs, and, I'm never going to discredit what Hulk Hogan has done for wrestling. I'm not going to, do you know what I mean? He's still wrestling to me, but I can't obviously back or get on board with any of the stuff he said, because and that's a real judge of his character, the stuff that he got caught saying, and I don't respect that at all. It's not going to take away what he's done for wrestling for me, and I'm not going to never watch Hulk Hogan again, but I just think he's done. There's no need to bring him back. You're not going to get any more eyes on the product, because the fans that were watching Hulk Hogan, I don't think, if they're not watching WrestleMania already, I don't think it's going to make them want to tune in anymore. And I just think WWE need to read the room a bit better. I just don't think there's any need for it.
Man, the first thing I said when I seen it, and I was like, this is a little bit weird, like, because obviously the Hogan, the racist stuff and that came out, obviously the way the climate of the world is with Black Lives Matter, then you've got like the social justice culture, and I was like, it just makes no sense. I didn't know that stuff about Titus, so I kind of get that. But for me, wrestling, no but in a bad way, but for me, wrestling doesn't need like a host, or it's not a talk show.
No, it doesn't.
Let them go wrestle. Like if you want Hogan back, let him sit in the audience. Like back in the day, you'd get the old wrestlers that would sit in the audience to watch the show. Let Hogan do that. Like, obviously, Hulk Hogan can't sit in the audience if there's people there, but like just have him like walk in the back or something. If you want to do something fun, just have him like an old guy walking in the back, trying to figure out where he's going. Do you know what I mean? Like, where's the ring? Where do I go? Something different. But it's like you're not really. What's he really bringing to the table? Obviously, he comes out there, does his stuff, but he looks so old now as well. Like even Flair, like Charlotte Flair's the next person. The Flair and Lacey Evans, whatever. You're just like, just let it go. Like that era of wrestling is unfortunately as good as it was. Flair was wrestling before any of us were born. Like, you know what I mean? Hogan was wrestling before we were born.
Come on, he was. Just to give you an insight on how old I am, Royal Rumble '92 was I was born in '92. So what? Flair was already like 40 years old then. Do you know what I mean? He was, and you're still bringing him back. They just love the nostalgia. They just love it.
Yeah, man, I was born in '91, and somebody the other day was saying to me, "Oh, do you remember this?" And I was like, I was still in my mother's womb at that point. I do not remember that. Like, I wasn't even alive to be like, I wasn't on the outside world. But I don't get why they're doing, like you say, Flair, Hogan, they were in their 40s at that point, and they're wanting to bring Hogan back. Like, I thought they were going to do Billy Kay, so we're going to do a host and just have her like, I would have her come out and be like, "Oh, I've got the best position in the show. I'm the host. I'm literally the face of WrestleMania." Because now she's doing the CV thing. So then she's on her CV, she adds face of WrestleMania. Play the story. These are just ruining the story by going, okay, we're going to bring back Hogan.
But that's you've nailed it on the head there. Even like regardless of Titus's charity work and stuff, that I'm not for him hosting. I don't rate Titus O'Neil at all. I don't think he's great. And like you said, it's not like you're going to build anything from this, or it's going to help Titus in any way and raise his stock as a wrestler. So why not give it to someone like Billy Kay, who could, even if it's just entertaining little segments throughout, brilliant. That'll add something to the show. I don't, like you said, I don't think Titus and certainly not Hulk Hogan are going to add anything to this show by hosting. I just don't get it.
And if they want to do like appease like the social justice culture, BLM, whatever, why not invite some people from those movements in? Like reach out to other communities and stuff like that. Obviously, everybody's got different opinions on everything that's happening, but reach out and talk to people. You're literally
Yeah.
like that's what wrestling used to be. It used to be a sport that everybody can watch, and then obviously it's a niche product, but everybody knew what wrestling was in the 90s, early 2000s, and then it's just seemed to like die away. Everybody still knows it's there, so why not just reach out to other communities? Like if you're I don't know if you're in the UK. I'm making an appearance on Coronation Street. You know what I mean? Like EastEnders. I don't know if they're still on TV. It shows me my age, but like I don't know.
No idea.
I don't know why they don't just do stuff like that. Like oh, okay, so America's very polarized at the minute because of however many different movements is happening in America. Obviously, you've got like the Trump stuff,
Mm.
Biden, BLM, SJW people, and like all this stuff. Well, just invite like people to chat, give their perspective. It gives them the good stage, and then you've got a ton of women, men, everybody on the show. Just have all the wrestlers host it. Like have them come out and do like this is why I became a wrestler.
And the
And
and
then
the
you go segment.
and the problem is as well. I'm sure there were a few wrestlers, or didn't Hogan come out and say recently that he didn't feel very welcome backstage, and wrestlers are still a bit uncomfortable by his presence. So again, come on, like you're hard-working talent that have a real issue with the things Hogan has said. You're just kind of pissing all over him by bringing him back just because he's Hulk Hogan and had a name back in the 80s. And like I said, I'm never going to discredit the work he's done. And I'm not sitting here, let's cancel Hulk Hogan because, well, I don't have time for him anymore. But, I'll still go back and watch WrestleMania 6 and have a good time, regardless of if I agree with certain things he said. But yeah, Vince just needs to read the room better, man. It's just disappointing that they would even do that and bring him back.
Man, the thing I think is problem with WWE at the minute, this is what I've boiled it down to, is Vince doesn't spend time with normal people. Like he doesn't get normal people. He's got a room of writers that get paid what £100,000 dollars minimum each. Then you've got all these like he does not talk to people who make minimum wage. He cannot read the what's happening in the world, which is terrible for a show that you need to write on a weekly basis. Like if in marketing and advertising, I need to go talk to people on a weekly basis, just out in the world, take into ads. I don't think WWE is sitting talking to just the normal person. They'll probably look at Twitter and go, nobody likes that because these are wrestling marks, but this small group of people liked it, so they will just go for that small group, and it's just upsetting these guys, and then it's making it stale for the casual fan. They don't really care what's happening.
No, I think you're right. Vince is, and I'm not. I don't want to knock anyone for their age. That's not what I want to do. But he's just very removed from, like you said, just normal society, what's going on at the moment. Whereas someone like Tony Khan, and he's got his ear to the ground. He understands what's going on, and he's doing a lot of good things, and putting a stop to the whole Joey Ryan thing, and things like that. He really is just he's got his ear to the ground. He knows what's going on. He's very current and he's up to date with what's going on in the world. And I don't think like you said, Vince is like that. And Tony's got the Young Bucks and Cody, all these great minds around him to help with production and storylines and things like that. And Vince has still got the same old group of people he had way back.
Yeah, man. I think the other problem with wrestling at the minute is we can sit and say the problems, but there's a lot of positives to it as well. But the problem is they don't want to try and do something that people might not like. So they want to try and please everybody,
Yeah.
which you're going to upset more people if you do that. Like if they just went like Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa is perfect example. It was just two women having a good wrestling match, and then obviously the blood and stuff like that, which was cool. It's something that I like. It means it meant something. I didn't like it was on free TV, which people might say I don't know, but I think maybe if you kept that for a pay per view, it would have looked a lot more better. Like it would have meant something for the pay per view.
to counteract that point, would it then get lost in the shuffle of a big pay-per-view?
That's the game you need to play. Then you would go, okay, so you're only going to have these guys bleed tonight. That's what the writers and the bookers and stuff are there for. But I think people, they're just too scared to do anything. AEW are trying to push things. Most of it hasn't really worked. I think it's because of the pandemic. It's not really... The people not been there to react to it as well. Like if you had packed stadiums and they were travelling around, they would have came to the UK. It would have been insane. Like I think it would have been bigger than what it is. But because they can't, like you said, they can't read the room. They don't know how people want to react to it. They're like, what do we do here? I like how they're pushing stuff, and WWE are just far too scared. Like literally, what made you work in the Attitude Era was you broke the rules, and then now you don't break the rules. And wrestling was always talking about society, situations. There's a ton of stuff that's going on in society that wrestling is just ignoring. It's like, speak about it.
Yeah,
instead of from
you're right.
booting women as a main event for the sake of it to make you look good because your investors want it. Give it a reason. Have the women go in a protest. There was a referee. I was watching it the other day. The referee walkout. Do you remember that from back in like 2001? It was like it was part of a storyline. The referees were like, "We get hit too much. We're not going to."
Maybe rings a bell.
It was like, I think it was Triple H hit one of them with a sledgehammer, and it was the last straw. They were like, "We're no refereeing the matches." They were outside going in a picket line and stuff like that. I was like, why would you not do that for the women? Like, we're not getting main events, so we're staying home. And then kayfabe social media.
Some reality and some depth to it. Yeah, you're right, man. Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Cool. The news would pick it up. It's a work. They don't know it's a work. You know what I mean? That's the whole point of wrestling. It's a magician trick. You don't know what's real and what's not. And then the women can come back. Okay, you just need to you need to pick your best women to go up against the best guy we've got, and we'll have like if you can get in the main event or something, or I don't know, something like that would just be pretty cool. Instead of from being worried, like, oh, we can't have a man hit a woman, can't have this, make the women go over like they used to do back in the day as well.
That's actually such a great idea. Could you imagine just a mass walkout, all the women, and then it's kind of like you don't know what you've got until it's gone, kind of thing. It's like no, come back, and then, and you know, like you said, blurring the lines of reality. That's why the CM Punk stuff got so over, because for once it was kind of like, hold on a minute, how much of this is real, how much isn't? You know, and that's where you can really get viewers invested, where that you really blur those lines. I think you need to write for WWE, mate. You're wasted.
Too bad. I'm not smart enough for that.
I don't know.
I think I need to be sillier enough to get that. You know what I mean? But I think it's just make stuff real. Like you've got literally had the BLM protest. Obviously, some people don't agree with it. Some people do agree with it. Everybody should just be the same. My opinion is everybody should just be the same. I don't care. My best friend growing up was 7 feet tall and he was from Africa. He was born in Russia. Weird combination. But he had a Russian accent, and he's like. So I went to Africa to go see his mum and all that kind of stuff. I've been everywhere. I don't care what colour people are or sexuality. It doesn't bother me. I'm not that interested in that. If you're a cool person, I'm cool with you. But why not in wrestling? Blur the lines. There you go, BLM, cool. So we're going to send wrestlers to go to the marches. Even if Vince doesn't agree with it, it's what's happening on the real floor of the world. The women thing, you've got all the pay differences, have them talk about their pay, have the writers try to write stuff and stuff like that. I think it's just so the story's there getting told, and the pandemic show wrestlers sitting in the house doing nothing. Like the story's literally there to be told, and they have just failed to do it. And the same goes for AEW in that point as well. They've no grasped that part yet. I think AEW is a little bit. They've got those ideas, but then they don't want to be like, oh, we'll be the first one to go do this in case it backfires on them.
Yeah, and I get the hesitance, but I think you're right. Just blurring those lines. I mean, come on, Edge, Lita, Matt Hardy. That again is a prime example of just blurring those lines, and you know that probably got a lot of eyes on the product. And even with social media now, like they're just not using it to their advantage. Like these guys could really add some stuff to these feuds if they were just sending shots over Twitter, or you know, even if they were allowed to keep their Twitch streams. Could you imagine, you know, someone sat there, you know, on their Twitch stream gaming away, and then someone, whoa, you've got in my house, and do you know what I mean? The stream goes up. There's so many things that they could do to, use the social media platforms that their guys have created rather than just taking it all away from them and controlling it. These guys could get themselves over with social media, and they're just not letting them.
Man, I think like that as well, or you could just even do the keyboard warrior stuff when it's like Roman Reigns has popped in the chat. He's like typing like, "I hate you, leave me alone." I mean, like stuff like that. There's so much that you can do with social
Even
media, but
even the 24/7 title, I thought would be a perfect opportunity to have whoever these wrestlers are, right, just going live on Instagram or wherever it may be. Right, I've got a ref behind me. I'm going to go and get the title. And do you know what I mean? And you have to kind of watch Twitter just to see who the champion is and things like that. I thought that would have been a perfect time to really sink their teeth into what social media can do for them, and especially for that belt, I think it would have worked perfectly. But they just, like you said, they just don't go for it.
at the beginning, Ron Killings, R-Truth, is that his name now? Aye, R-Truth.
Ron
I
Killings,
still
that's a
call him Ron
throwback.
Killings
That's a
back in the
throwback.
day. Yes, I'm old, okay? I was on my live stream the day I was showing people N64 games. I was like, I'm so old, I need to stop this. He done stuff on social media. He lost the belt, I think, once on an Instagram live, and then he won it back in the same live.
On the plane
Aye,
as well, we did something. Yeah, that was good. But yeah, just wasn't enough, was there?
not like it was like that was it. Like you could literally just make. I don't understand why they don't want to jump on it more. You can make more money from social than you can from TV. You're more worried about investors with WWE kind of side of stuff. Tony Khan's obviously still got. He'll have a 5-year plan like any business, and he wants to hit that 5-year plan. So he's probably going to play it safe for the starting period. But he'll probably talk round to doing like a death match and stuff like that. So I'm thinking that it'll be easy to get talked round, but the only problem I have with Tony Khan is sometimes I feel that he might just be buying the wrestlers that he wants when he was a kid, like
Yeah, I get
Christian,
that.
Sting, and it's like, okay, let's like Christian. I get him and Omega is going to be cool. I think it'll be a cool match. Do you not think it'll be cool? No.
I was so against Christian. I I I've literally had just arguments with so many people. Not arguments, but like just my pals and that. Just like, how can you consider this guy Hall of Fame worthy? And I get that the Hall of Fame.
He's no Hall of Fame worthy
I
because
don't think so.
he's like, if you want to pick out of Edge and Christian, you'd want Edge. If you want to pick out of Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, for me, it's Jeff Hardy because he's the cooler guy. So
Exactly.
the worst thing is it makes AEW look like the lesser promotion because I've got Matt and Christian, and Jeff's still in
Devon
the aye.
Dudley will be next.
Aye. You don't want like the side character, you want the
No,
main person to tag.
not at all. And I don't enjoy. I mean, I don't really enjoy Edge's matches that much, to be honest. Aside from your TLCs and a few, John Cena matches that were quite good, but I just don't think Christian's got a dynamic moveset. I think his TNA run was great, and he did a lot there. And if you're going to consider him Hall of Fame, maybe TNA Hall of Fame worthy, yes. But wrestling Hall of Fame, no, not for me. I don't get it at all. And now they've kind of, I've raised a good point. Well, toot my own horn, I raised a good point. But I think a fair point is that he's a wrestler's wrestler. And I think that's muddied the idea of him in the crowd's eyes. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that think, yeah, Christian Cage, he's brilliant, he's brilliant. But because we're the boys, the wrestlers are so hot on him and they really praise him, like Moxley did recently, and all these other guys say he can outwork everyone. I think that's kind of just muddied the idea of Christian as an act. I just don't think in 2021 he's a big act and a massive signing. So yeah, I'm not really behind it. I mean, do your thing, Christian, make your money, mate, but I'm not really invested in whatever you're doing.
No, man, I think him and Omega are going to have a good match. Obviously, Omega Christian will probably put on something good, but it needs to be a retirement match or something because I'm on your side. Like even in TNA, if you go back and watch some of the stuff with Angle and stuff like that, it's like it's cool, but we want to see Sting do it. We don't want to, like Christian Abyss at Lockdown 2006, I think it was good. But I wanted to see Sting at the end of the night. I just sat and watched it to get through that match to get to Sting. But no, I know what you mean, man. I'm probably he's not a Hall of Famer, like anywhere near a Hall of Fame. It's like you said, like you've got Matt and Jeff Hardy, Dudley Boys. You know exactly what one you pick from that, and everybody's got the main one. Then it's like, and then the other guy. So the Hardys, Jeff Hardy's the first person that comes in. Even though he's had a poor mess up period in his life, you still think he's the better one than Matt. But then, like, like Christian and Edge, you're like, why? And why do the thing at the Rumble? Why do the cuddle and stuff like that? Just to then leave? Why not just get like we literally it's been a poor rant. Just give it to Daniel Bryan and let him win it, and then they could have just Edge could have went to AEW, and that would have been a little bit more cooler than Christian. But I guess we can rant. So man, where can people find you? Because we'll wrap the podcast up. Where can people find you? I've got all your links in the description from last time. I've got them added back in. Where can they get you?
Yeah, at GG on Wrestling on Twitter, and wherever you get your podcast from, there's something about wrestling. Loads of new stuff I'm working on, and I will be hopefully getting some YouTube stuff up. But yeah, just trying to give the people some good content and have fun doing it, basically.
Yeah, man, people definitely check out. I liked your solo kind of review that you done. I was listening to it the other day.
Thank you.
I thought it was really, really cool, and people need to go check your stuff out because it's. I can't wait for you to get YouTube, so it makes it easier for me to watch it in the office. But Spotify, wherever, I've got it in the links below. If you wait there, I'll end the podcast and I'll tell you when this is going up.
Perfect.